Welcome to Thinking Like a Lawyer with your hosts Elie and Joe Patrice, talking about legal news and pop culture, all while thinking like a lawyer. Here on Legal Talk Network.
Hello and welcome to a very, very special Above the Laws, Thinking Like a Lawyer. Yeah, and that crowd is here because this is, once again, this is our second annual Thinking Like a Lawyer Awards show.
Ba-ba-ba-bum,
Right.
ba-ba-ba-bum, bum.
Yeah, that's not really an Oscar song.
We're not talking about Star Wars?
We are not at all, at any point, actually. So we are doing yet again, as we did last year, we're in our tuxes before this beautiful crowd of people, and we're going to wow them with as many...
With our red carpet awards. But first I get to grind my gears, right?
Oh, do we... There's gear grinding.
I think I get to grind my gears first.
Okay.
So we are talking about Star Wars.
Okay, good. So for the audio editor, this is where you're going to mark for deletion. All right, go.
No spoilers, guys, but here's my issue with what's going on with Star Wars right now. The director of this new movie, Rian Johnson, has been subjected to lots of Twitter hate, some death threats, to the point that he actually had to respond about it. People are crashing the movie's Rotten Tomatoes score. Most people generally like the movie, but there are a few, what's the word I'm looking for, Joe?
Fanboy man-children?
Jackasses who just decided that they have the right to try to make this man's life horrible simply because he did something more with the second Star Wars movie than make it a fanboy service merchandising gig, right?
Yeah.
It was an ambitious movie. Not all of it worked. Some of it did. I liked the parts that worked. I didn't like the parts that didn't work. It was a fine freaking movie, but it was more ambitious than what J.J. Abrams tried to do last time. Yeah. It was more ambitious than any of the prequels, and these fanboys are just, they can't handle it. It's ridiculous. And the way that I tie this into like everything else that's going on with the world is that this is the problem with the democratization that the internet has brought us, right? Everybody thinks that they can write their own Star Wars. Everybody thinks that they can be the coach of the team. Everybody thinks they can be president of the United States. You know what? You can't. It's not Little League Baseball. Not everybody gets to play. And there's got to be some like removal, some understanding to let the professional people go do their work instead of having this kind of Little League Baseball, everybody can play mentality, which is how we get a country run by people who are entirely incompetent with no discernible skills.
Okay, cool. So,
you want to give out awards now?
Well,
let's get out some fucking participation trophies right now.
Right, that was the thing. You're just kind of like, you're ruining the whole effect here. The whole point is to give out awards to people for doing very little. And this is not the opening we'd hoped for. I had commissioned him to do a musical number, as I expected, of any good Billy Crystal run awards show.
Yeah, my voice is a little bit scratchy right
now. Oh, well. So, are we ready to go? Is the audience prepared?
We're ready. I'm just checking to make sure that we're doing...
Yeah, drum roll.
There's drums.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, we're about to start.
Let's do it.
All right. So, for those who weren't here last year, we have a few categories, and let's begin as we did last year. We're changing this category. I want to get this out of the way. Last year, it was the non-judge of the year. Now it's judge very loosely of the year. We're going to have judges in here as well as non-judges going forward.
Right.
All right. Judge of the year. So, nominees are Judge Posner, who managed to get in some fairly nasty little fights with both SCOTUS and his co-judges, and then quit out of nowhere and is now serving the pro se community by helping out.
That was between that time he spoke with me for an hour on More Perfect.
That's right. Tell us more about that.
That's where he defended the Kawamatsu decision as rightly decided at the time to my face by saying that it was okay for Roosevelt to do it because he didn't know any Japanese people. It was kind of an amazing bit of sound that we got, and he quit maybe a week after it went up.
Oh, no. Yeah.
The one had nothing to do with the other, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, so he had an uneventful year in our Judge of the Year category. Hillary Green, that is a Texas justice of the peace who admitted to sexting with a bailiff and there was some stuff with recreational drugs in there, but some fairly graphic sexting with her bailiff, which, I mean, for those of us old enough to remember Night Court, Bull was always the subject of.
Yeah, this was, that story just felt to me like a more adult version of Night Court, and I don't think it's a nice nominee, but I'm holding out for something better.
Well, so we'll go with the obvious elephant in the room right now, Alex Kaczynski.
Yeah.
Ninth Circuit Judge Alex and former Chief Judge of that circuit, Alex Kaczynski, who retired earlier this week amid, to use the word mounting is an understatement, an avalanche of sexual harassment claims.
Yes, turns out he was a perv.
Allegedly, yeah. Certainly a lot was coming down that pipe.
He's the thing that's interesting about Kaczynski, I think, is that, Kaczynski is the start of this, not the end of this.
Oh, explain.
In the judiciary, right? Like, his time in the barrel has come first, but you cannot believe, given everything that we have been seeing in our culture right now, you cannot believe that of all of the federal judiciary, only Alex Kaczynski had this problem of sexually harassing his clerks. He simply can't be the only one. Now, I don't know how long it's going to take us to find out who's next. I don't know if we're going to break that story, if that story is going to be broken otherwhere. I don't know where the source is, but I do not believe that this is the end of this train.
Yeah. No, and it's also the beginning and not the end, to the extent that now another vacancy on the Ninth Circuit, which means yet another opportunity for this administration to put a judge in there that will, Judge Kaczynski, while a Republican-appointed judge, was a fairly independent-minded, fairly libertarian person. If only we could come up with a libertarian-minded person who
clerked on the Ninth Circuit, perhaps.
Maybe.
Perhaps has some prosecutorial experience. Trump people like that.
Yeah. You say FedSoc, because Federalist Society is how they pick
we need
people.
To have
yeah.
under 50.
Yeah, it definitely has to be under 50. It'd be nice because now they've got to deal with Doug Jones and stuff like that. If they had somebody that maybe Democrats would find at least palatable, like maybe a diverse candidate.
Yeah, maybe somebody who checks a couple of boxes in terms of diversity. Maybe a person of color.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Don't we work with a guy like that, Joe?
We do. Yeah, so we're very much, he has nothing to do with this, but Elie and I have very much decided that it's not a joke. It is very serious. David Latt, the founder of this publication, of the Above the Law publication, is one of the people who would best fill that role.
David Latt, in a completely joking aside, David Latt fulfills all of the requirements that we have seen for Trump judicial appointments.
Yeah.
And, from my side of the aisle, while I disagree with Latt on, 90% of the stuff, I take Latt over most of these yahoos that Trump is putting up.
Speaking of yahoos, we'll get to a few of them before this is over. And so who's final? Well, we have one final.
I didn't realize we had a final.
So okay, you've got some senses already. The final judge/non-judge of the year, former Chief Justice Roy Moore. Roy Moore, who attempted to run twice the Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court, kicked off both times, ultimately tried to run for Senate and did such a spectacular job that the Democrats managed to elect a senator from Alabama.
I saw on Facebook today, somebody said, Roy Moore still hasn't admitted that he lost the election. That should tell you something about the rest of his denials.
Well, that's a good point. I saw the quote of the day for us was a joke that's going around about Matthew Peterson, the judicial nominee who got grilled the other day. What do Matthew Peterson and Roy Moore have in common?
What?
Their careers both ended because they failed to understand younger abstention. Oh.
That's deep nerd. Deep nerd.
Oh, yeah. All right.
And dirty. Yeah, my vote here is clear.
Okay, what do you got?
Richard Posner. Here's the thing. In terms of an award, Richard Posner gets an award for being a powerful man, leaving his job surprisingly, while keeping it in his pants.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's a skill now.
Yeah.
Judge Posner, he left because he had these other issues, because he was pissed about that, because he was angry about that. He did not leave. He was not forced out because he was an alleged sexual predator. There are a lot of powerful men who can't say that right now. Judge Richard Posner, my judge of the year.
Yeah, and the pro se work he's doing is fantastic. Well, we don't get to choose who wins because we have our results vetted by PwC, just like the Oscars, and they've lost them. So we are going to decide, and it's going to be Richard Posner. So with that, we've got our first one out of the way. Everybody still excited out there? Yeah, all right. So we're just going to keep having fun with sound effects. So the next category we have is practice pointers, which is our annual category for just moves that may be a bit boneheaded in this practice. So
you can learn You can learn from others' mistakes.
Correct. So our first nominee is Lynn Patton. Lynn Patton was picked by the president to head up part of the housing and urban development office in the region based on her legal acumen. She also happened to be a wedding planner for the family. Her legal acumen came into some controversy when the school was called about it by reporters, and they went, "What? She didn't go here." So she may not actually have been a lawyer ever.
Practice pointer. Update your resume.
Yeah.
Correctly.
We have 5 nominees in this category. So our next nominee is Abby Lowell, a famed lawyer. Check your email is probably the answer. Abby ran into some trouble earlier this year by representing Jared Kushner and responding to an email from somebody who purported to be Jared Kushner and correctly not trying to do it over email. But then that fake troll email was in his Outlook, and then he sent confidential documents to this troll later by just going, Jared, yep, that's it. So check your email.
Well, archive your email.
Don't do autocomplete. Just turn off the autocomplete function on your Outlook. It's important. You don't want to end up like this. Michael Potier is our next nominee. I think that's how you pronounce it. This is a Denton's associate who I believe his case is now over. Originally pleaded not guilty, but I believe they've reached an agreement. He allegedly threatened to blackmail his firm by turning over documents to Above the Law. So we appreciate the being
dragged into it. That's great.
Yeah,
for us.
So that's a practice pointer, not to blackmail your firm.
Also, a practice pointer for other media companies: have a liability shield.
So Mary Jacqueline Cook was in the news. This is a Fager associate out in Colorado. She went on her honeymoon this year. She came back and discovered she was woefully behind on her hours, and so made up hours. By the way, she got suspended for that. You were not supposed to do that.
No, you're not.
Yeah, she got a 9-month suspension though. So let's hope that honeymoon worked.
You're also not supposed to make up more hours than are in like a day.
Yeah,
like if you find yourself billing time for 25 hours for a day, you've messed up. You done messed up, and you need to edit that at least.
That said, I kind of am sympathetic to the situation, which is why do we live in a system where you aren't allowed to have a honeymoon? Basically, why is getting married being held against this person? That should have been a situation where she comes back and says, I'm going to be behind, but it's because I was gone for a month. And we just leave it at that. But alas. And finally, we have a dual nominee, Ty Cobb and John Dowd, for having lunch and discussing the Trump-Russia defense while sitting next to a New York Times reporter.
Yes.
Don't do that. Don't talk in public about it.
Obviously, this is my choice. Obviously.
It's the best choice because this is a team of people who should know better.
Yes. These are the best lawyers our president can find to represent him, and what they're doing is having confidential communications about the Mueller investigation. And it's not like they were in some kind of out-of-the-way spot. They were in sidewalk seating at a very popular D.C. lunch spot. Of course there's going to be I don't know if you've ever lived in D.C., you know where the reporters are. They're in all the places they're supposed to be. There are many places in D.C. that are hidden, that are secret, that are dark, that are there to be away from the press. Sidewalk seating at this restaurant was not one of them.
Yeah.
So it both melds the just lack of competence from the Trump administration with also their just lack of DC know-how, for all this like, oh, we're outsiders and running outside. Yeah, we're going to drain the swamp. No, first of all, they're not draining the swamp, but sometimes it's useful to know, how the swamp actually works if you want to be effective there. So that story just kind of brings it all together for me. So I've got them in a romp.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I agree. So congratulations, Ty, and John will be sending the trophy to you. They could not be here today, but they wanted us to thank folks on their behalf.
There is part of me that thinks the woman who built 25 hours in a day got robbed, though. Because,
so, by the way, if
lawyers are bad at math, so
right.
you kind of get that.
If people are listening and don't know, and you want to look up these stories, you can look up all of them because all of these are people that we profiled throughout the year on Above the Law. We wrote about every one of these stories, so by all means, go look them up.
I literally thought you were going to tell our listeners that there were 24 hours in a day.
I could have, daylight saving. So let's move on to what last year was our closing topic because it was such a great one, but this year kind of lackluster, so we'll throw it in the middle. The Dewey and LaBeouf Law Firm of the Year Award. The Law Firm of the Year. We only have 4 nominees. So first up is Venable. Venable gets on this list because a partner, William Briggs specifically, wrote a cease and desist letter to people for, writing a thoughtful op-ed about Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I love this story. I mean, it's a classic Streisand effect story.
Yeah.
I never knew that Taylor Swift was a Nazi.
Well, she may or may not be, but that she definitely makes choices that have made her a very popular icon with certain Nazis.
Until the Venable lawyer sent the letter telling the blogger to stop calling her a Nazi. It never occurred to me that Taylor Swift might be a Nazi until this letter saying stop calling her a Nazi came out. It's brilliant. So
yeah, no, it was an op-ed that basically suggested that she's very popular on alt-right boards, and one of the reasons might be that she chooses imagery and phraseology that they latch on. And this fairly thoughtful op-ed yielded a cease and desist letter. It also then yielded a hilariously biting response letter from somebody who understood that you can't do that. Next, Holland and Knight. This one is this firm fell into a situation which they got a timeout from a judge. So Judge Paul Engelmeyer told them that they'd done something that he felt was improper, and he told them he was inclined to rule against them on the sanctions motion, but he would prefer if they would take some time and write him a letter explaining why they were sorry for what they did. Totally like dealing with children, just like it's your job to sit and think about what you did and write me a letter about it. He explicitly said, this is not an opportunity for more briefing. I just want a letter apologizing. Holland Knight took this opportunity and wrote a brief explaining how they didn't think they'd done anything wrong and that he was incorrect about the law. He was less than amused. That is the Law Firm of the Year nominee. DLA Piper, the global law firm, they are on our list this year because in a world where cybersecurity means so much, the WannaCry virus really shut them down.
DLA Piper, coming to us from their affiliate on Mars.
Yeah, but that's the thing. These global firms need to understand they're even more at risk.
DLA Piper is particularly vulnerable because we make the jokes because they have offices everywhere. And for that firm in particular, to not be more careful about cybersecurity is, problematic.
Including in the country of Africa, right?
Yes.
Isn't this the firm that,
yes,
like, on their list says we have them in all sorts of countries, including Africa?
Yes. That was a while ago.
Yeah. And finally, Gordon and Reese, whose New York office manager, Mercedes Colwin, went on TV to explain that sexual harassment and assault are few and far between. The firm immediately addressed that situation.
Yeah, she wasn't using her firm credentials when she went on Fox and Friends or Fox Now or
whatever
Fox, whatever the hell it was. But astute readers pointed it out to us, and we were able to point it out to Gordon and Reese, and that was swift.
Yeah, she's not running that office.
Right.
So who do we think wins the firm of the year here?
Well, it can't be Gordon and Reese because they did the right thing.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So I got to think that it's down between Holland and Knight, who did explicitly what they were told not to.
Yeah, that's what I like.
But the Venable thing was so dumb.
It is. I feel like Venable is the La La Land here. Like I started assuming they were gonna win, but I think Holland and Knight,
I think look, it's Law Firm of the Year, right?
Yeah, right.
We can't impugn all of Venable because one of their dumbass partners has an infatuation with Taylor Swift.
All right, I think this is right.
But Holland and Knight, I mean, think about all of the people involved in sending that brief from Holland and Knight. Like that's much more of a firm-wide issue of hubris.
All right, congratulations to Holland and Knight on Law Firm of the Year. Next up, we have this is a fun little short one. So our Thinking Like a Lawyer Award, which historically was for people utilizing legal things inappropriately in different settings. This isn't going to be that this year because this is going to be kind of a catch-all. This is for non-lawyery things that just kind of didn't fit anywhere else. One is
basically you're saying you made a whole category just for things that you felt like mocking a second time.
Well, mocking or talking about. I just couldn't find a good place for them. One is Mila Stauffer. This is a 2-year-old girl who threw a ultimately viral fit on social media when she found out that her mom had enrolled her in preschool despite her explicit instruction that she wanted to be going to law school. She doesn't understand how debt works yet.
Okay, I'm not going to mock the 2-year-old.
Really? Oh, see. Anyway.
I've got one of my own. I don't want that coming back to bite me in the ass.
Fair enough. Ella Hughes, who is the British porn star who pointed out that she quit law school so that she could pursue a more lucrative career that involved less debt.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just the same amount of...
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you got to track your billable hours still. And finally, in this category of not really lawyers, but like people who aren't really lawyers in a real sense, Brett Talley, who is no longer a nominee for judge, who brought his, legal, it's Thinking Like a Lawyer. He brought legal acumen to reading tea leaves in a seance.
Yeah, no, he's the winner by far.
Yeah. Junior Ghost Hunter, who was supposed to be a district judge in Alabama, will not be because cooler heads have prevailed somehow. So congratulations to Talley.
You realize, listeners, we're not joking, right? Like Trump nominated a guy
who believes in ghosts.
And hunts them.
Yes. That is a thing that happened.
Like, I find it hard to believe that there are people out there who hunt deer.
Right.
And that's okay. This guy hunts ghosts.
I mean, look, it's a proud tradition. It dates all the way back to the Venkman era.
If you're going to eat the whole thing, then I guess it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, he also likes ghosts so much that Mark Joseph Stern from Slate found out that this guy was posting on Alabama sports boards about how the original KKK was kind of okay.
Yeah. It's
ghosts. It fits with the theme. He likes the uniform. So now, with that, congratulations to Brett Talley. Let's move to professionalism. This is our professionalism award for, sterling acts of professionalism in the legal world. Our first nominee is Jeffrey Wertkin. That is an Aiken Gump partner who was caught dressed up in a cheesy disguise trying to sell whistleblower info to companies.
There was a movie about this with Matt Damon, wasn't there?
Well, I mean, this happened earlier this year, so Matt Damon is prolific, though, so hell, I don't know.
Maybe there already is one.
I don't know. Maybe Harvey greenlit that at some point. But no, this is the Aiken partner who did that. Next up, we have Trent Garman. Trent Garman, you're a big fan. All right, good. Tell us who Trent Garman is. Oh, no, Trent Garman is the surrogate for Roy Moore, who was hired as Moore's attorney, even though Garman had been suspended from the practice by Roy Moore at some point. Anyway, he went on TV, did a few things. He called Don Lemon Squeezy. He went
Easy
on...
peasy lemon squeezy.
That is true. Big clarification. He went on Stephanie Rule's show and
we went on Stephanie Rule, and I was watching this in real time. Stephanie Rule does a show with Ali Velshi, and he went on to talk about Ali Velshi's background and how because Ali Velshi had this different background, he was somehow more amenable to Roy Moore having relations with 14-year-olds. And what was amazing about that is that Stephanie Rule caught him like in real time called him out and was like, what are you talking about? Why does my partner's background have anything to do with this discussion? And just embarrassed him. And it was great.
So
It was exactly how you want a quote unquote white ally to act when you're being impugned. And this happened on live television.
So moving on, we have Jay Sekulow, who is a Trump attorney who doesn't appear to be doing a lot of stuff other than going on TV. He also makes millions of dollars, somewhat controversially, and seems to have no idea how the law works whenever he talks.
I can't, like, when he's on talking about legal issues, it's not unlike a freshman, not a 1L, a freshman who's had a survey course on the law talking about legal issues. Like, it's the same level of depth and understanding. It's very frustrating.
Well, and if you do, and from my perspective, because I was a white-collar defense lawyer for a long time, even if you go so far as to say he has some sense of the law in some broad civil sense or whatever, this is a white-collar criminal investigation, and the stuff he says is even worse. From the perspective of a white-collar world, it's like an 8th grader talking, not a freshman.
He's also, like, bad at explaining it, right? Like, like if you're going to be the lawyer who goes on TV, as a person, you know, who has done that before, one of the only things you have to be able to do is just take your little bit of knowledge and be able to express it clearly to non-lawyers, and not even be able to do that. He's just a disaster.
So the last nominee in this category is Mark Kasowitz Benson, who was the original Trump lawyer who a series of misadventures took place while he was representing until, you know, Ty and John showed up and started having their garden meetings. Yeah.
Kasowitz is my pick for this category for a simple reason. So Above the Law is a publication that has tussled with Kasowitz before. Okay, we've reported on his firm. We've reported on some of the shenanigans long before Donald Trump came into the picture. Mm-hmm. So when Trump hired him, it was this great moment for us, I think, as reporters, where it's like we knew, it's like, oh wow, we're gonna get stories now. Like, you don't have to. You knew that Kasowitz was going to implode generally along the lines in which he did.
Yeah.
Months before it happened, if you had really been following this guy's career. So it was really it was a pass the popcorn moment that I think is deserving of an award.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kaz falls into this. The story that came out from, I can't remember if it was ProPublica or not, but was amazing. It had a lot of great little professionalism moments. And yeah, it's the same thing we were saying about Sekulow. From a perspective of a white-collar person, I think Mark Kasowitz is actually a very good lawyer at the thing that he does, which happens to not be a white-collar defense lawyer. And so it was a bizarre choice. And it's the sort of choice that you have an obligation, probably as a lawyer, to say, this is out of my wheelhouse. Please don't make me your lawyer here. But nonetheless.
Are we sure that Sekulow is good at anything? We're sure that Kasowitz is good at something. He's not good at this.
Right.
Are we sure that Sekulow is good at anything?
No, we are not sure of that. So that brings us now to, and this is sad, but we are coming up on the last category. It's been a fun night, hasn't it? I mean, just the antics. Oh, yeah. All right, so the last category is a Law Professor of the Year.
Oh.
The last category this year is Law Professor of the Year. Our first nominee, Jack Vitianen, I think. Vitianen. From Georgetown. He was arrested for lots of meth in a Breaking Bad kind of way.
Just lots of meth.
Obviously, that case, he was just arrested. Who knows what happened? But that happened.
Did he keep his money in oil barrels buried in the desert?
The desert outside of Georgetown, yeah. So that's one. We have staying at Georgetown. Now, impressive year for Georgetown in this category, by the way. Randy Barnett, who brought in Jeff Sessions to make a conversation about the importance of free speech to an event where they didn't invite anybody, so they couldn't have
actually went out, purposely excluded some people who might not be amenable to Jeff Sessions' message about free speech at school.
Now, I got to say, I'm not positive he's going to win this category, but I really want him to, so that we can, as he's coming up to get the award, we can do the This is Randy's second nomination and second win because he won last
last year
Yeah.
for his Scalia shenanigans.
Right. So I
Who's
really
gonna
want
beat
that. Well, here we go. We got a couple more.
All right.
There's a dual nomination. Amy Wax and Larry Alexander.
Oh, God.
Amy Wax and Larry Alexander, who put out an article explaining how black people just aren't that bright. Was kind of their premise.
It was not just that we weren't that bright. It's that the whole premise is that Western culture is superior to all other cultures.
Wait, sorry. Well, you said Western culture. I'm hearing a little dog whistle in my ear here. Okay.
You hear that too?
Yeah.
Western culture is superior to all other cultures. And if other cultures, not saying exactly who, but if other cultures, if other peoples just acted a little bit more Western,
Right.
Western sometimes, then things would be a lot better for them. Wow. I mean, I forgot their...
There's a reason this is our last category.
They're law professors because
Yeah.
the hate that they got went so beyond the legal profession.
Yeah, no, there's a reason this is our last category because it's probably our strongest this year. So Amy Wax, Larry Alexander, they're not our last nominee.
They're not?
Our last nominee is Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz for his continuing efforts.
Oh, that's so sad.
You've been the one who've written a piece about how sad it is.
I'm a fan of Dershowitz. Dershowitz knows my family. I mean, he's nice to us. And he's so in the tank for the MAGA people right now. He's so in the tank for, I don't even know exactly how to describe it, but he's so in the tank for saying patently ridiculous things, talking about how the president nothing the president do can be illegal, equating Black Lives Matter to terrorist organizations. He's lost. He's lost.
And unfortunately, to clarify for rules reasons, I should clarify that when he wrote on Above the Law a long screed about how I was a terrible person, which we invited him to because I thought it was awesome. But when he wrote that was actually last year, so that does not count for these awards.
Yeah, we're not talking about especially given that, I'm still going to have to go with Wax. With
Wax and Alexander.
With Wax and Alexander. Because that was a controversy that truly transcended legal fields and legal discussions and got right to the heart of what, from my perspective, right to the heart of what racism looks like today. Because you don't, Trump people aside, you don't necessarily have the hood-wearing Nazis walking. Of course, you do have that a lot. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. In academic
Tiki torches, yeah.
In academic settings, those people usually aren't there. Instead, you have these cultural racists, these cultural imperialists talking their bullshit. And Wax and Alexander was really, when you think about it, it was an amazing article to kind of hit all of the racist notes in one piece. And it's been so widely disparaged and called out. I don't see how there can be any other winner. And that's amazing because Dershowitz and Barnett had amazingly douchebag years this year.
Yeah. And the other guy got arrested for meth. He's
the hero.
Yeah.
He just did some meth.
Yeah.
He didn't try to hurt anybody else. He didn't make anybody else feel, he was just trying to get his meth on.
Yeah. All right, so we are in complete agreement. I think that Wax and Alexander win this award, and that brings us to the end of the show. This was a fantastic night. We are so excited. And all the luminaries in the audience, thank you for coming out. Chief Justice, thank you for the roast. I don't think it made this, but he did an opening number for us. It was fantastic.
Congratulations to all our winners.
All right, so with that, I think we're done for another year.
Probably done for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Happy New Year's, everybody. Happy holidays.
Yeah. So read us on Above the Law. Subscribe to this podcast.
We are not going dark for the holidays. We're going to be dark 2 days, but the rest of it, we're there.
Oh, yeah. We will still have content going out on Above the Law. Subscribe to this podcast. Review this podcast. Everything you write and stars help us become a more searchable podcast. I'm at Joseph Patrice on Twitter. He is at Elie NYC on Twitter. We are there more often than normal people should be if you want to interact. And with that, I think we're good.
Help us make David Latt the next Associate Justice on the Ninth Circuit.
Next judge on the Ninth Circuit. But yes, not justice. But yes, absolutely. He needs to get that job. And with that, we're done. All right. Say good evening. This is where we would have playoff music. But
Feliz Navidad.
Yeah, but I wasn't able to find it. So, all right. Bye, all.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. You can also find us at AboveTheLaw.com, ATLRedline.com, iTunes, RSS, Twitter, and Facebook. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.